I have been in Norway to photograph ospreys together with Jostein Hellevik. We spent 2 weeks preparing for what we called the impossible shot. And while it of course was not impossible, it was a huge challenge. The goal was to get the osprey to take a fish just in front of my floating height, and our effort really paid off. After I released the video, there's been a lot of questions about my techniques, camera settings, and about what equipment I use to make these photographs and to film myself. I'm Morten Hilmer and welcome back to the channel. This behind the scenes video is going to answer a lot of these questions, so if you're ready, pour some coffee, get ready, and then let's go and pack some equipment and get out to the meadow. So, before we start talking about all that equipment on the table and on the floor and why I brought that lens rather than that lens and things like that, I want to share with you how I managed to actually photograph that osprey taking the fish just in front of me. And because everything happens within a split of a second and you only get one chance if you're lucky, and if you're really lucky you might get 2 or 3, there's no time for missing. Like, this is not the place to practice. So there are some basic photography skills and some knowledge that can help you achieve a good photo in situations like that. And these are exactly the things I would like to share with you. Something about autofocus, some presets, some custom button setups, and just some general thing about the way you think and plan a photograph before it even happens. And rather than sitting in front of that table with a fire in the background and a nice cup of coffee, I thought it would be much better to get out there to a little lake I found because it's more realistic. So that's where we're going now. Let me just pack this stuff here and then let's get out there and I will see you in the meadow. So, here we go, on our way to the meadow and the little lake, and a lot of talk about techniques, settings, all that stuff. What a weather. My dog Björn is 13 and a half now. He's an old guy, so I'm not bringing him everywhere anymore because it's simply too hard for him. And this morning we had an 8-kilometer walk to the beach and back. So yeah. Come. It's warmer than I expected today. So I think we put the jacket in the backpack. du med der? Now I want to talk about the most important thing, and that is to kind of predict what will happen, and based on the thinking you do there, try to make it as easy as possible for yourself, so that the chances for you getting like that photo you really want to do are as high as they can possibly be. First, let me just go through the challenges, and then afterwards we take the solutions. The biggest challenge for me was 2 or 3 things. First of all, the osprey would come so fast from the sky and just bam into the water, and I did not have the option to sit with my face and look, oh, now it's coming, and then prepare, and then, because I had to be hidden because the osprey was probably 2 meters, 3 meters in front of me. So that was the first challenge. I had to just listen and then be ready. Second, the challenge was the fact that I was sitting looking like I do now. There was no point that I could focus on. And out of focus, regardless if I have a great camera with bird capture, bird detection, autofocus and stuff, when the osprey hit the water, there will be water drops all over the place. All of these small water drops will probably look like eyes, and the autofocus could not get it because it was just wings and water and beaks, and yeah, I did not want to risk that opportunity on maybe doing a failure. And the last challenge was the fact that I did not know where the eagle or osprey would come from. I didn't know if it would come from this side or that side, or front or from the back. So I had to find a composition that could work with everything, and then of course the exposure. It was a day like today, and I would then risk to have burnout highlights. So that was the challenge. Let's now go one by one through the solutions I did. Here we go. So the autofocus in a situation like this is a little bit tricky because you can't really use it. So I had to find out where the osprey would land, and I kind of knew that because I knew that Jostein has placed a fish out there. But the problem was that as I was sitting there watching the water, and I had to wait maybe 3, 4, 5 hours, I would forget where the focus point was. And if I used the camera, if I put manual focus and I used the camera just once to something else, I would not be able to see. Yes, I could see 5 meter, 4 meter, 3 meter, but it wasn't really precise enough. I wanted to make sure that when I hear the osprey coming like beep, beep, I could just press a button and then the focus would be there. So you probably guessed it, it's focus preset. In the menu of the camera, I decided to assign the function button on the lens to save the focus distance. That means that when I decided the focus distance, either manual or with autofocus, I could press and hold this button, and that distance would be saved for later usage. Now I just need a way so I can quickly access it again. The most convenient way for me to do it was to assign this little button on the back of the camera, so that with a quick press with my thumb, I'll return to that saved focus position. Here you can see when I press my function button on the lens, if you look here, you will see that little sign saying that focus has been saved. If I do like so, you can see it's very unsharp, and the moment I press this button here, I have focus again. So that was a little demonstration, the focus preset and focus recall. This is a quite specific situation with the osprey, and that you know where it's coming. So let's just try to take that to a more everyday situation, like when I'm sitting here, maybe waiting for swan to come and land or something like that. Or it can be like a fox jumping over the road or something like that. There's often something in the terrain in the same distance that you predict your animal to be, and then it's just to focus on that, save the focus position, and then have a recall button that is not too complicated for your fingers to find. It should be just so without thinking you just press that thing and then you have the focus. It doesn't have to be exactly that place. If it's just like, let's say with a wide angle, it can be just maybe 2 or 3 meters wrong, but just that you are in the kind of that area, because what often happens, especially with telephoto lenses, is that you have photographed something far away and then suddenly something happens closer, and then the autofocus struggles to find the subject. It's much easier if the camera can actually see the fox or the bird or whatever it is. So in this case, I would, if I know the osprey would come from, let's say, 1.5 meter until 5 meter, I would just focus on these reeds that are out there, maybe 3 meters from me, and then I will save that as a focus position. As I said, this was very specific with the osprey, so there I had to just be very sure, and I had the luxury to have Jostein to help me. So yeah, that's the focus thing. If you don't have reeds or something and you are photographing in water, you can always just throw something to the distance. If it's with a wide angle, focus on that, and most of the time with the wind or the current stream will take that away, and then you have your focus position. That was focus. Let's talk a little about exposure, because that was very tricky as well. So this is pretty much the same situation as I had with the osprey, with a lot of light in the background, you know, see the clouds, and then a foreground that is a little darker. Let's try to get the histogram up. See here, it's totally maxed out, meaning that I don't have any playroom in the shadows or in the highlights. So what I did there was, first of all, I disabled the auto ISO. Normally I photograph with the auto ISO and manual shutter speed and manual aperture. Then I tried to dial in the aperture I would like, and that would be around 8. The f8 I used because it gave me a little playroom compared to my focus point. So if the osprey would land, let's say 0.5 meter closer to me or further from me, it will still be in focus. It would probably also be that with its lens on an f4, but yeah, I just really like that. And also to give me nicer details and a more sharp background. Second thing was the shutter speed. And the shutter speed I decided to have around, I think it was between 1200 and 1600. That would be appropriate when I was photographing with something around 35 millimeter and that fast bird. And then when I have the aperture and shutter speed, then the ISO would be dictated by the surrounding light. And here I used the histogram so that I would aim for the highlights. You can see in the histogram now the highlights are burning out, and now they are preserved. I still have a little details in the shadow, and I'll definitely need that once the osprey come, because the osprey will be backlit most of the time, meaning that I needed to have that a little playroom here in the shadows. Furthermore, it'll be easier for me to recover a little from the shadows on this camera, because if the highlights are burned out, like if I used here, I would not be able to recover them. So that was how I decided the exposure. And then I would just monitor the histogram as the light changes, and just constantly make a few adjustments to make sure that everything was fine. If we go to the composition, it was nice to have a zoom lens here, because let's say this was the framing I would like. Then I would take maybe 20% or something like that out, just to have a little playroom. Because in the perfect world, I would like to make the photo as great as possible in the field. But then, because I didn't know if the osprey would come from here or from back or from the front, I needed a little playroom here as well, just like with the autofocus. And that was why I zoomed a little out, you know, just so I had more room. Of course, you can say I could go to 24 millimeter and then I could just crop in. But first of all, that would be a heavy crop. And second, I like the perspective here better than super wide. So yeah, if you don't know exactly where things are coming, it's always good to have a little extra room around, so you can do your composition later on. let's get this coffee in the stomach, and I need to go and do some shopping for the pizza this evening. And then we're going to talk about the lenses and the floating height and all the other equipment I brought to Norway. And then of course we're going to talk a little about how much rain can the equipment take and how to deal with it when it has got too much, or just to how to take care of our equipment. So yeah, let's get packed, let's get home, do some shopping, make some pizza, and talk about equipment. Let's go. Here we go. What a day, what a day. Ui, gammel hund. Let's go shopping. These sensors are not made for driving with a lot of trees and bushes and vegetation. Hvor er Bjørn? That wind was crazy. I really hope that my voice came through the video from the meadow, because I feel my hair is all over the place, and now I'm also pretty warm, even though it's a little cold in here in my wooden room. But when I released the video from Norway, I got a lot of questions, and I said I would address a lot of them in a behind the scenes video, and there was a lot of questions about equipment, and here we are. If you have seen that video, and if you have read through the comments, just see how many comments there are, you'll know that I cannot answer everything. But I'll try to take the most important things and then I'll answer them. Bjørn is walking around. He's tired now. I'll concentrate on my choice of lenses, cameras, and a little about drones, charging batteries. And after that, we are moving on with something that I find really exciting as well. Let's start with the lenses. What lens to bring on a trip like this? I have here 600 f4 with a built-in converter, 400 2.8 with a built-in converter, and the 180 to 600. Then I have the 2470 2.8. I have a 2470 f4, which I don't have on the table. And then I have the Nikon ZF here. So on the trip, I brought the 400 2.8 with a converter and the 180 to 600. This one and the smaller f4 version of the 2470. So why did I not bring the 600? And I just want to talk more general, not just that exact trip, because you're probably not going to the exact same trip doing the exact same photography. Let me just talk in general. And then let me also talk about why I use this now rather than the Tamron 150 to 600 and how these two lenses compare. I'll also talk a little about like why I use this so much over these two lenses that are many times more expensive, also sharper and better in many ways. But again, let's start with the 600 f4. I did not bring that one because it was an overlap over the 180 to 600. This one has a built-in converter though, but I can put a converter on this one. And this one is big and heavy, didn't really matter when I was in a blind. So why did I choose a more portable, lighter version? Simply because it's flexible. In a lot of my videos, you will see me, at least the upcoming videos, you will see me using the 180 to 600 a lot. And the only reason for that is it is really sharp, it has a really good build quality, it has a good vibration reduction, it's very silent, and it's sharp, very sharp, definitely sharp enough for my usage. When you compare it to these lenses with the sharpness, yes, they have an edge. It's slightly bit sharper in the center and sharper in the corners, lead vignetting and stuff like that. But of course, if you put up a newspaper on 50 meter and zoom in, these things are visible. But for my kind of photography and for my uses and for my opinion, this is definitely sharp enough. The small advantage this one has in sharpness and in light, because they are, like this one can go 600 plus 1.4 converter. It is an f5.6. This one is 6.3 at 600 millimeter. This one is f4 on 600 millimeter. But that in itself is only valuable if you need that extra light. So most of the time you'll see me using these two lenses are one, if I expect there is going to be low light, if I sit with a badger, with a foxes, with a deer, and I know the light is going to drop, if there's a good chance for that, I'm willing to sacrifice the flexibility and to carry the extra weight and volume. If that is not the case, like with the Osprey, I knew I was not going to photograph in low light. Therefore, because in the early morning it's in the nest, in the evening it's in the nest, that'll be midday, so or like morning, afternoon, but not low light. That was why I didn't care so much about the aperture. As we already talked about sharpness, it's fine for this lens. Vibration reduction, sound, also great. And then comes the big benefits for this one, flexibility. This one is so flexible because it goes from 180 to 600. It's a very easy turn here, so yeah, it's just so good. And you saw that in the video when I was photographing the white-throated dipper, where this one was more for the tripod and also difficult to get around. It's like, well, you know, you have to lift this, and if you want to just move a little to one side, you're just a big mess. Where this one is just, yeah, it's just easier. I'll just be going like this, very light. I can move, I can be very quick, and that's also why you have seen me so much in my previous videos with the Tamron 150 to 600. And then you can ask yourself, why did I switch to this one? Simply because this one is more silent when I do video recordings. I don't hear the vibration reduction and I don't hear the autofocus as I did with the Tamron. And furthermore, I feel this one, as far as I've tested it so far, has a better weather sealing. I was struggling a little with a Tamron, which you probably know if you have seen a lot of my videos. So that was the answer for that. I also brought the 400-28S, and you say, why do I bring that? Because I have that here. That was just because if I ended up in a situation in low light with some moose or something, I would love like a super fast lens, like 400-28 with a built-in converter. It's brilliant for that. Slightly bit smaller than the 600, not a lot, but it was I just felt awful for not bringing one of the big primes. Also, if I want to isolate the subject of some reason, this was very good, and it was nice from the blind. Did I regret I didn't bring the 600 f4 at some point? Yes, I did. Of course I did. I always do. Like, I always want the lenses that I left at home, but yeah, I just don't like to carry everything with me. It's just a big hassle, and then I sit out there. So yeah, decision training. Camera, the Nikon Z9. I just love that camera. But let's take the lens first. 24-70 2.8, 24-7 f4. I could have done the things I did with both lenses, and to be honest, I prefer the f4 for my type of photography. This is definitely a brilliant lens with the 2.8 for what it's made for, but I never use 2.8 on the lens, so why have this extra big bulky thing when I have the little small lightweight f4 version, which is also supremely sharp. So yeah, that was it. Z9, my overall favorite camera like I've ever had, and it's just because I like the size, I like how the battery grip is built into the camera. It adds robustness, it adds waterproofness. I have big hands, it's a big camera, they are just like made for each other. Love it. Great autofocus, great video features. It just does everything I want it to do, and it's a tank basically. I haven't been able to get any arrows with this camera yet, and it has really been tortured on a few expeditions, trip to the rainforest, to Borneo, to yeah, and a lot of water on this trip. The Nikon ZF I brought, that was my second trip. Maybe you know, I tested it on the fishing trip to Norway, and my intention with this camera was to use it as my primary filming myself camera, and at the same time a full frame backup for the Z9 if something should happen. 90% of the video you saw was filmed on this camera, the rest on some of Jostein's Sony cameras, DJI, GoPros, phones, but this was like the main little production house for that video. I really like the camera. It has, for the first time in the full frame with 10-bit 4K flip screen, so I could see what I was doing. Great audio preamps, great video functions, all in all just a great camera. The only drawback for me, because this camera is clearly not made for what I'm using it for, is that I'm not a big fan of all these styles and stuff that has to be there, because this is the style of this camera and that is what it's made for, like a retro style. But for my kind of photography, it is not always the best. It did the job. It did the job very, very well. And what about weather sealing? I did have a time where two of the buttons did not work after a heavy shower. You could see that on the video. That was clearly not what this camera was made for. Things here are already very soaked. Even though I'm putting plastic back on the microphone, I'm having trouble. Like, we have tried to shake it off, and you see, it's just... I managed to fix it in the field, dry it up, and I'll show you later when we get downstairs how I did that, and how you can also treat your equipment very good if you torture it like I do. And that brings me to another question: why don't I use rain covers when I photograph in this heavy rain? And the answer is so simple. First of all, it's so hard for me to operate the lenses fast and the cameras fast when I have rain covers all over the place. And second, I have to tie, I can't just put it loose, because if there are wind that brings it up and it will do like you know, like so, I risk the animals would be scared. Second, like if I do it for my vlogging camera, you know, I have to do settings all the time, and it's simply too slow when I'm out there and everything just, you know, goes on, and I have to faff around with the rain cover. I use the rain covers when I'm out photographing wildlife, and I sit with one of the big primes or with this one, and I have it nicely set up. I just coincidentally have not made videos about that. So that's why you haven't seen me use it, but I do use it, just not when things are hectic like that. then my first priority is to do the job or get the photos. And then I know my equipment can take a lot of rain, and I know how to treat it when it's too wet. And I'm again going to show you that later. Photography wise, just brilliant. I've just photographed and filmed some ducks and a beaver with the Nikon ZF, and here 180 to 600. Great combination for this, and very, very versatile. Great autofocus, fantastic viewfinder, good image quality. Everything is just vibration reduction with this one. The built-in stabilization is just really good. So yeah, nice camera. Tripod's not a lot to talk about. A small tripod for my filming myself things. Bigger Gitzo tripod I bought in 2008 together with a BH55 ball head from Really Right Stuff. Still working like new, so why replace it? No need for me to say the model number because it's you can't buy it anymore, but just carbon fiber, a tank again. My binoculars, the Nikon Monarch, Nikon Monarch 830. I prefer these because they're small, easy to carry. I like the 8 times magnification because with 10 I tend to not be able to hold it still when I'm a little out of breath. This one is nice. Also, I don't really use it to discover single species. I use it more to scan an area for movements and animals, so I don't spook them before I arrive. Batteries for the cameras, charger. These ones, by the way, I highly recommend. I don't care what brand you buy. These are called Backstar. They are in a whole lot of different brands, but it's basically USB-C camera chargers, camera battery chargers. You can charge with USB-C and micro USB, and some of the newer ones take 3 batteries. I highly recommend. They are just really good. Do they damage the batteries? I don't know. I haven't experienced that. 2 extra batteries for the Z9, also charged with USB-C. DJI Osmo Action 4 with a microphone on top to film myself. In the video I didn't use this microphone, but I regret because there was a lot of wind noise, like. So now this is the setup I use. Look, my new selfie stick. The first time in my life I have a selfie stick. I bought it last week, so I'm really proud. Power banks. This is a 96 watt hour Anchor. I'll probably do some links in description, maybe with some of the equipment, so that you can see it if you're interested. Otherwise, I'm sure you will find it yourself. The only thing that is important with these power banks is that they have USB-C out. With this one is 100 watt output, which is really nice because that lets me power my computer, my laptop, and the bigger batteries for the Z9. This one we talk about when we get downstairs. Drones. I brought the Mavic Classic, Mavic 3 Classic, and I brought the Mini 3 Pro, and if I could rewind time I would just bring the Mini because it's definitely good enough for what I'm doing. The reason why I brought the big one was to be able to fly in a little more wind and to get better low light film, but I did not need that. The little one was great. And then a smart controller for flying both drones. But now we're going to something I find really exciting, and that is the floating height. And you might think, oh, it's not interesting for me because I don't want to do a floating height. It's annoying. Yes, and it can be annoying, but it can also be extremely efficient. And that's what I'm going to talk about now. And then after that, we're talking about some dehydration of cameras and how to treat it after heavy rain. So I hope you could use this for something. Let's get to the garden with the floating height. So, time to talk about this floating height. while the pizza oven is heating up. And yeah, just before we get started with this, there's another question I really would like to answer, and that is, where have you been? We miss your videos and something like that. Why have I only published 2 videos in half a year or something like that? Yeah, like, there are a few explanations, but the shortest is that I have been doing something else. I have been traveling, and I have done some projects that I just want to touch on briefly. But the most important thing is that I've been doing something like on Borneo, some nature conservation work, filming some trapping of trying to trap a leopard for putting a GPS collar on to preserve them from pouches, I think that's called, the one that shoots them. Things that I have been doing that I can publish on my YouTube channel. Unfortunately, hopefully in the future, if we can get some kind of agreement. But as it is now, it's just something for me and for nature, of course. That was a really great trip. Spent about a month down there, Indonesia, Borneo, in the mangrove, in the, yeah, just being with people there. It has been, yeah, what an experience to be in a totally different climate. We're doing a stereo recording here in the mangrove. Let it run for 3 hours, hopefully to be able to either discover some birds or just capture the ambience in this mangrove. Oh, that mosquito really got me itching. Then I have been rebuilding my workshop, which until now just has been a place where they used to have cows. And now I want to turn it into a workshop, so I need to do the floor, the walls, everything. It takes a lot of time. And then I've been working on my live stream project. If you know, I have another YouTube channel with these live streams, and there are a few projects there. There's the one that you probably know, where you can see foxes, badgers, martens and stuff like that, a lot of birds during the day and during the night. Then there is, in the background there's a box with hopefully soon a kestrel, we don't know. And then there's a live stream that I'm really happy for this year, and that has taken a ton of my time, and that is the tawny owl. There's a box camera inside a nest. Now I've named her Frida and the male Theodore, and now they have 3 chicks that are growing so fast. I'll link to these live streams in the description. But now let's get back to the topic of this video. Let's get it together in high speed. Just stop here for now. This is the floating height, now inflated, and the good thing is, the thing I really love is the fact that when it's deflated, I can carry it in that bag. That means that I can take this to around the world, and that is just awesome. And then when I get on location, maybe 5 minutes in total, and everything is ready and set up to go. We stop here before I put the top on, because there are a few things that I would like to talk to you about. It's made out of some aluminum poles, some very heavy-duty plastic. This one is very heavy-duty as well, so I've never ever been scared of anything puncturing it or something like that. When you're photographing, you're basically hanging in your arms if the water is a little deep, and because of that you use these fins so you can navigate and move in the direction you want. You also have a dry suit on. I don't want to unpack because, you know, I'm basically living in this suit in the video, so you can see it there. But that suit keeps you completely dry. There's a zipper in front, but everything is dry inside, but it's not warm. So you have to dress so your temperature will be fine, even though you are in cold water. And if you're in warm water, of course, less clothes. So that's easy. When you're not on the very deep water, or when you're just getting out, you're usually crawling on your knees, and that is where the knee protection really comes in, because then you protect your knees and you first of all protect the dress so you don't get wet suddenly because of a hole in that. When you cannot reach the bottom, you are hanging in your arms like this, and your legs will be underneath water, and you're until around your belly button. And it can be really hard for the muscles here to hang there and carry some kilos. So that is where you can put a harness on and click yourself in somewhere in the floating height. Just remember, if you do that, you either have to have a quick release system so you can get out of that harness if something happens, or you need to mount a knife somewhere safe, so a diving knife, so that you can cut yourself loose, because you don't want to get stuck to a beast like this if something weird happens. I don't know what that should be, but better safe than sorry. Your camera is mounted on the tripod, and you can put whatever tripod head you want. And then in front of that there is this nice little fabric that you basically put on underneath so that the water doesn't splash up. And this one will be mounted here, so if there are some small waves, they don't come in. Usually you don't bring this out if the weather is really bad, because first of all, you can't really photograph when things are going like this, and if it's windy there will be a lot of drifting that you have to compensate. So I prefer to use this in calm water, calm weather, and then it's just brilliant. There are some very nice things about a floating height, and also a few things that are a little less nice, but let me talk about the nice things first. First thing is, I already mentioned, it's very portable, it's not that heavy. I can travel around the world, I can bring it to the locations I want and set it up very quickly. Second is that I can access places that I would otherwise not be able to photograph. And I can photograph from an angle that I would otherwise not be able to photograph from. If you're going to a lake, there will usually be reeds or something like that, and the birds will be on the other side, and you are checkmate. With the blind, you can come out and photograph from out the lake and towards land. First of all, you can actually see the birds, and second, you get a much nicer background than with the lake and the sky in the background. Now you get the reeds and maybe the trees and the forest on land. These things are really nice, but also the angle. You get so close to the water, and that is just phenomenal. Another thing that's really good with the floating height is that you can get so close to the birds, because they are not expecting an enemy coming floating like a little island, and it really looks like an island with the camouflage on if you put some reeds and stuff in. They are looking for enemies from above, like eagles, ospreys, or they are looking for foxes and things that sneak around on land. They're not looking for an island. And as long as you're not like making big movements or go really fast like a speedboat in this one, if you have strong legs, then you can get like very close to shy birds. Sometimes there will be a duck coming up like 5 meters from you, and you can get so close. It is really nice. If you're very interested in it, go and search for some of the people that basically lives in these ones. They are much more experienced than me. I've only been out in this maybe 20-25 times, so I'm not routined. Just want to express my excitement about it. So that was this part of it. There are a few drawbacks, and one drawback is that it's not good when it's windy, but again, what is the alternative? Second drawback is that it's really cold if the water is cold. It's really getting cold. But again, yeah, you can dress up for that. And then the last big drawback is when you have to pee or the other thing, then it's quite annoying, because then you have to go to land and get up, and then you destroy your opportunities. What I do is I usually go to a place where I can reach where the water is just to here, so I can get down the zipper in the dress, and then you just sneak it out and pee, and then off we go. And it works. You can also wear Pampers if you're more hardcore. I actually have a few Pampers for if I'm going to photograph the heron, because I don't want to faff around and pee and stuff. And of course you can stop drinking water the day before, and then you can pass out in the blind, so that's not a good idea either. Let me just get the roof on just to show you a few more things there, and then these ones are for carrying the beast. because you cannot carrying it in the top, then it will just come off. Let me put the roof off so you can get a last look of the whole thing together. So now, as you can see, this is like the final floating height, and you would use it as you would use it on the lake or on the slow floating river. Inside here you have some pockets that you can open just with a, this is where you enter the height with the entrance here, and then inside you have these things you can open. Probably you can see my hands is waving in here, so all these you can take off and look out. This fabric is a kind of a, I don't know if it's a cotton or a nylon, but it's not waterproof. Doesn't really matter because you're in a dry suit, and the water will always come down here, maybe drip a little from these holes, but it doesn't matter. I've been out in pouring rain. You maybe remember the one with Simon where we were in the Land Rover, and that is totally fine. The good thing about this material is that it's ultra breathable, and if the sun is on, it can be pretty warm in there. This is where your lens sticks out, and you can adjust that with a zipper depending on what height you have. And the reason why I spent quite a lot of time talking about the floating height is because that was the reason why I got the photo that I got. That was crazy. If I did not have the floating height, I would not have gotten that photo. It was because I was very well hidden. I had the freedom to move in there, and I had the freedom to stay there. Not the freedom, but it was comfortable enough so I could stay there for many hours. It would not have been the same if I would lie on an island with a net over my head, and if I had been in a regular height, I would be dependent on a little island where I could sit or something like that. So you could see Justin was sitting in a stationary blind, and I was sitting out there, and he got really, really good photos, but he said to me, you have to go in the floating height because that is where you get something really different. A few other drawbacks with the floating height, now I was talking about that, is of course it's a little more cumbersome to like change batteries, change lenses and stuff, because you have to be so careful you don't drop the things. And of course there are a few things when you're out there that are not that easy because you're sitting there in the water, but overall it's really, really nice. And first of all, you can move around, and you cannot do that in a normal blind. You can move around, find a little better angle, and go like this. But again, you cannot really change your perspective that much this way because your lens is stuck there. You can't really get it up here or down there. But I would say usually it is perfect where it is for the birds because you want to get low to the surface. Why do I have these pockets? Just simply because you can place them inside. Let's try to have a look. How can we do that the easiest way? If we look in from the end of the blind, lift it up here. There's a little string up there that is for having my phone. I have a little hook on it so that I have it just handy if Jostein is messaging or something like that. The black pads in there are Velcro so that you can attach this one either to the side like so or to the end. You can see like this. This is just small pockets that you can use for batteries, teleconverters, whatever you want to use. And of course it's not so easy to sit in there and go from 600mm to a 2470 because where would you put the 600? You can't really hang it anywhere, and it would not be safe. But I mean, smaller things, you can also have a vest with small pockets for memory cards and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just basically working. And just put this inside. I think that was it for the floating height. And yes, these small loops here are for putting reeds and sticks and branches and longer grass and stuff like that. I don't know why I picked this grass. I don't know. But yeah, that was it. Let's go in and talk about the wet equipment, because it will get wet when you come home from this, because there will be splashes, there will be things, and let's just talk about that. Ja, kom så. Bjørn. So, wet equipment and how to avoid damage. I have two scenarios. One is when you're out in the field, and one is when you come back home and have electricity and stuff like that. Let's start with the field. When I get back and my camera is soaked, like the ZF and this one was in Norway, I have the same routine every time. I remove the memory card, the battery, and open like basically everything. Here my Delkin device cards, out with them, and I leave the doors open. Take off the battery, leave that open, I flip out the screen, and then I extend the zoom if it's a movable zoom like this, and of course I take everything off that can come off. Now before I take this off, I dry the camera with a cloth. Okay, there's nothing new about this. I reckon everyone are doing the same. Dry, clean cloth. I do everything in front, the front element. I don't do like so. I just hold it, let it suck the water, and then I use a better cloth for actually cleaning that, something that I know will not scratch it. So, and then I take it in again. You can probably see it, take it in and out, because it will drag some water out. I do that multiple times. When everything is dried all over the place, here as good as I can, can't see any more water. Of course I do the accessories, make sure they're dry, and then you should think that's good enough. Then you put it in your bag, but there will still be a lot of dampness or water inside, especially when the lens does like this. So what I want to do is use these bags or any other silica gel product. Silica gel are the small white bags that when you receive some electronic, there'll be a little white bag that usually say don't eat or something like that, and inside there's small pearls. This is a bag of silica gel with color indication on it. I don't want to take it out because there's a hole on the back, but you can see it's just orange small pearls. This one I used previously and put it into small bags myself, but now I found these ones. This one is just a pre-made bag full of silica gel, and on the back it says 600 watt, 6 minutes, and that is to dry it. So you can dry it either on a radiator, put it in the window on a sunny day, or out in the sun, or you can put it in a microwave. Inside is silica gel, and on the front you see here, when blue dot turns pink, recharge. That means dry or heat. I don't know if you can see it, but it's basically just a bag full of silica gel, and I have many of them because I love them, and I keep them in plastic when I don't use them because I don't want to suck the entire moisture from my farm. And I put my camera gear, camera, lenses, everything that has been wet back into my photo bag, and then I put one or two of these, and then I lock the bag or zip it, and then I just leave it overnight. That means that rather than the moisture from the camera continues to like go in the camera and sit in the bag, so everything is a little damp, everything gets absorbed by the silica gel, and then the day after it's super nice and dry. I've experienced multiple times when I photograph places like Norway in the snow. I come in, things get a little wet because of the tent if I don't leave it out in the night. And then the day after, when the sun comes up and starts to heat the lens, I'll get condensation, I'll get water inside, and then I have basically either to pretend it's a very, very foggy day or not to photograph. So this is a really, really good thing. And this was actually what saved the ZF when it was malfunctioned after too much rain. My bad. But after a night with the silica gel in the back, it was fine. So it works. So it's just important to get the card out, battery out, open everything, so none of the water will get stuck behind some doors or flaps or something. So that is one option. You can either buy bags like this all over the place. I'll link in the description to something similar to this one, and I'll also link to this one, because it can be handy to make smaller pieces. Maybe you have some small bags and you don't need these big ones, then you can make some yourself. So I said I had two scenarios, because I don't use these when I'm here on the farm. What I use then is a different system. I come home and the first part is exactly the same. I dry everything with the cloth like you just saw, but rather than putting them in the bag with silica gel, I put them in my room where I have the heating system for the farm. And then I have this guy here, and now you stop thinking, oh, it's overkill. Let me explain. I have this guy here. This one. This is a dehumidifier, I think it's called in English. And the way it works is just that when I come home, I press the laundry mode here. It now tells me that the humidity in here is 53%, and of course that's relative to the temperature. But okay, let me turn it off. This one you can also get very small, but the good thing about this is you can take it, you can do manual and say take the humidity a lot down. And I don't use it in a room like this, because then it'll have to suck away the whole humidity in the house. But in a small room with all my gear, like wet jacket, wet clothes, wet camera, tripod, all that kind of stuff, when I come out just after 4 hours, it's completely dry, also my back. And there's a mode for laundry, and that is really, really good, because it goes on the high setting. And when I do laundry, I put this, if it's raining outside and I need to dry it, I put this on, and then after 4 hours everything is dry and the water is collected in a tank. Give me a second. On the back here is all the water. And then I'd rather have the water there than in my equipment. And the reason why I like this so much, and I say you don't need it that big. The only reason why I have it so big here, the system, is because I also, when I get books and calendars, and if it's really, really damp from being in a cold storage, my plan is this year I can put this up in a smaller room and try to get some of the moisture out. But if you just get a smaller version, I think it's a really good thing if you are out there when weather is not so nice. Let me put that down again here. Way. So yeah, that was it for this time. Let's just get to the terrace, and then I have a few final things to answer a few questions, and then yeah, I want to make some pizza, and I think now I have deserved a cold beer, because this was a lot of talking. So yeah, let's go and see if the oven is hot. So 316 degrees Celsius. I want it up to 400, so I need to put a little more wood. Now it's just to wait and hope that this pizza will be really nice. Ooh, that was really hard to bake a pizza and film it at the same time, so it became a little weird, but what a day. Fresh baked pizza and a beer and sharing of the things from Norway. Cheers. It's been a lovely day. Still a little bit of light, even though the sun is behind the clouds now, and it's, what is it, 8:30 or 9 in the evening or something like that. But look, the last little thing I wanted to talk about was, sorry, the whole thing about photographing this way. And when I say this way, I mean, put out bait for the animals. It's always like a hot potato to talk about, but I don't think it's that complicated, because I always ask myself, does this do any harm on the animals? In this case, the osprey will catch X amount of fish per day, and if it catches them themselves or we catch them, it's the equal amount of fish it takes from the stream. Second, does it harm the osprey? Not at all. They are not hunted there. They are not. They're not hunted. They're not caught. They're not shot. So I don't think it does. It does a whole lot of harm with something taken into account. What I don't like is baiting when it harms either the animal that you're photographing or the prey that you are baiting with. Like I don't really like photographing when you put an animal that has been shot. Let's say you get a fox from a hunter and put it out to photograph an eagle. I'm not a big fan of that. But things are not black and white, or like evil and good, or anything like that. Very often it's so easy to sit and say, oh, I hate that kind of photography. It's not real photography. But the thing is, my point is just, this photo industry, this business, is one way to protect animals, because a lot of people in this world are mostly concerned about economy and where are the monies. And if there are better money in preserving nature, then that's what they're going to do. If they're better hunting, if they're better money in hunting, that's what they're doing. If they're better, and that is the worst thing, if they're better money in just destroying nature and building a lot of cities and cut down trees and make farmland like in Denmark, that's what they do. So I'm a strong believer in the fact that we have to be more nuanced than just saying baiting is evil, because in this case Jostein Hellevik is, together with his colleagues that do the same, are proving that nature also can produce a value when combined with photography or tourism. And yes, in the perfect world, we didn't have to do things like putting fences around and prove that there is money in nature. It would be much nicer if we could just leave it alone. But I think the last many hundred years have proven that we cannot do that, because we are simply too greedy. So just, if you argue that you don't like baiting and stuff, it's just very important to have in mind that It's nice to present an alternative then. And if you ask me if I love that kind of photography, I would not say I love it. I would say it's super exciting, it's super interesting, because you get to get a photograph of an osprey that you have never gotten before. The osprey is flying away happy with a fish. You are leaving to Denmark happy with a photo, and everyone had a great experience. So I really like it. But if you ask me, what would I rather? Visiting all the places in the world that offers photography like this, that I did in Norway, where it's kind of prepared, or what you say, it's like a scene that you create all kind of beautiful backgrounds and stuff like that, and then you put something out, and then the animal come there and you get your photo, and of course that photo is just like, wow, out of this world, because it's kind of arranged. If you ask me, I would rather do that and get these amazing photos, or I would rather just faff around here in my backyard and maybe have 3 trips without seeing anything, and just occasionally I come home with a photo of a fox crossing a road, or a red deer standing out in the meadow. It'll be the last I would choose, because that is what started nature photography for me. It's the experiences in nature where you just go out and you don't know what to expect. It doesn't matter if you come home with a brilliant photo, a winner shot or anything. There's something that's really hard to describe. And I don't photograph to win prizes, and I don't photograph to there's Björn who wants some pizza, to make like the best photo in the world. I photograph because I can't stop photographing, and because I love being in nature, and that will always be my first choice. And I think you will see that in the videos that will come this summer and spring. I've decided not to travel that much and stay home, just because I'm missing to photograph in my backyard. So with these words, quite heavy ending on the video, wasn't it? But I just had to give my opinion on that one. So cheers everyone, if you're having coffee or whatever you're having, or such a well-deserved beer. A lot of filming today. I'm glad if you joined me until here, to the very end, to the pizza and the beer. And I'm looking forward to sharing more experiences with you, more adventures here in my backyard, and who knows what will happen. But one thing is sure, see you out there. Hvad skal du have?